nagkaroon ng time na nawala yung self-worth ko.
You know, you have to work to help your husband with the finances, to help prepare finances for your children for their future.
Kasi dito sa Pilipinas, pag age mo ng 35, wala na. Para kasing etsapuera ka na.
And it feels like hindi ko alam kung paano ko mag-gain yung confidence ko. Pag naging mom na sila, parang nawawala na yung career path nila.
Kasi na-fed up ako sa sobrang traffic. So, papasok, dahil madaling araw, either mag-grab ako or mag-aangkas, which is malaki-laki yung expenses.
The time spent with your kids and family are far more important than any job title out there.
Nag-decide ako na maghanap ng online job at nakakuha nga ako. Sobrang saya ko talaga. Kaya tinulungan ko rin yung iba kong mga mommy friends at nagkaroon rin sila ng sarili nilang online job. Kaya doon ako na-inspire at nag-decide na simula ng Filipina home-based moms.
FHMOMS community was created for mothers, for single women, for women professionals and entrepreneurs, for women overseas Filipino workers, for differently abled women, and even for young at heart women. FHMOMS is a women community.
Nung nagsimula yung FHMOMS, hindi ko in-expect na ganito ka magiging malaki. Ngayon, meron na kaming more than 250,000 members nationwide. Dati, ang tingin ng mga tao sa amin, community lang. No? Ngayon, social enterprise na kami with different projects na tumutulong sa mga kababaihan.
We have free webinars about freelancing, entrepreneurship, parenting, and personal growth. We offer online short courses as well as mastery courses with trainers' 1-year support. We also run a scholarship program and an internship program. We also facilitate charity activities where we are joined by community members as volunteers. Job matching program is something they can also look forward to, as well as e-commerce program. And to celebrate motherhood, we also have online bootcamp for kids. We also have the computer rent-to-own program for members who need assistance in acquiring a computer set. Aspire to be a strong-willed, independent woman.
Mas gusto kong maging productive at saka naniniwala ako sa continuous learning.
Inspire other women.
Everyone was uplifting each other. Everyone was trying to help each other. In this world, you have to be more kind. You have to be more helpful because everyone is fighting their own battles, and you have to understand, you have to empathize, and that is what FHMOMS is doing with all the moms out there. Even if you're not a mom, you would feel welcome.
Empower each woman to be in their fullest potential.
And most importantly, Mommy MK and the team model humility and generosity. Talagang ito yung very evident, which impacted me the most. So it gave me the desire to share freely to others what I learned freely from the FHMOMS community. And I've always loved the community, the motive of the community, that is to change the world one mom at a time. Good job, FHMOMS.
Aspire, inspire, empower. Nothing is stronger than a community of women lifting each other up.
To be among women who have genuinely tried to help people. This is something that I feel passionately about, and then this is something that I saw in FHMOMS.
God is good. Kasi parang naturo sa akin itong FHMOMS na pinakita sa akin na kahit nasa bahay ka, kahit nag-aalaga ka ng anak mo, it won't stop na dun ka lang. Yun lang yung pwede mong gawin.
Without this community, I'm not here in this situation. So FHMOMS po yung nag-guide and nag-mold sa akin to be the best working at home mom I could ever be.
Ang pinakamalaking impact sa FHMOMS sa akin is their quote, which is moving forward, giving back. That's the very essence of FHMOMS eh.
That's what I like about this group kasi we encourage and inspire each other to keep dreaming, to chase our dreams. It's actually a big impact kasi if you are losing hope and wala ka ng gana and all, but because of this page, mapapasana all ka.
Dahil sa online job, natupad ko yung mga pangarap ko at ang pinakapangarap ko na lang ay matupad yung pangarap ng lahat ng mga moms. Huwag tayong titigil na abutin lahat ng mga pangarap natin, masipagan pa natin at huwag tayong susuko. Kaya kung feeling nyo hindi kayo techie, feeling nyo hindi pasok ang edad nyo para dito sa online freelancing, huwag nyong iisipin yon kasi sobrang daming opportunities ang pwedeng ibigay sa inyo online. At nandito ang Filipina home-based moms para suportahan kayo. Para sa mga naghahanap ng online job at gusto ring matuto pagdating sa online business, you can join Filipina Home-Based Moms Facebook group. My name is MK Bertulfo, CEO and founder of Filipina Home-Based Moms, and our goal is to change lives one mom at a time.
Hello sa ating mga momshies, FH titas at sa lahat ng ating mga viewers today. Alam kong napaaga ang ating webinar tonight kasi po today pala. Actually, it's a beautiful Wednesday afternoon. Medyo mainit-init ang ating kapanahunan ngayon pero sana po samahan niyo pa rin kami ngayon from 4 o'clock to 5 p.m. kasi mamaya din po at 8 p.m. meron din po tayong webinar. Pero syempre this time, ito muna yung pag-uusapan natin dahil napaka-espesyal ng ating live today dahil makakasama po natin ang isang CEO at founder ng isang women's group. Ito po ang Connected Women. I know that some of you are familiar with this women's group na to kasi ako rin personally, I am also a member of this community and talaga namang nakaka-empower that we have these kinds of groups sa Facebook, sa ating social media. At syempre, alam niyo naman mga momshies, mga ating mga FH titas, we all know, kasi ako personally, kapag narinig ko yung word na freelancing, I often coin with that or connect with that word na yung client ko ay foreigner or international yung clients natin. So, parang madalang lang yung alam kong freelancing na ang client nila is local. So, today, we will be hearing the tips. Our guest speaker will be sharing her tips to avoid, of course, yung success and biggest mistakes to avoid, especially if you have a foreign client. Ako kasi minsan kapag talagang nag-i-English or talagang full yung kailangan dapat pure English, ay nako, ma'am, nakaka-pressure, nakaka-intimidate. Pero we have to face a reality that if you want to pursue a freelancing career, there are talaga cases na ang magiging kliyente mo, you have to speak English. And the best thing to do is to be more comfortable with that language. Kaya naman today, we'll be hearing more of that, more tips with our guest speaker. Kaya naman, hindi ko na patatagalin pa. Kaya naman sa mga momshies natin, don't forget to share this video if you know na meron kayong mga kaibigan, kakilala na kailangan po ito, lalo na yung mga nagko-consider pa lang na first time mag-handle ng foreign client. Nako, this video, this webinar is right for you. Kaya, naku momshies, share, tag, and of course, don't forget to mention their names sa ating comment section below. There you go. So, hindi ko na patatagalin pa. I'll introduce our guest speaker for today. She is a tech-smart, business-savvy, down-to-earth, and connector of people and ideas. Normally, kapag daw ini-introduce niya ang kanyang sarili, she would say that she is someone who has failed in business several times since the age of 16, though she's not because of, not because she is proud of her mistakes, but because she values failure. Ito ha, momshies, take note of this. She values failure as a catalyst for success. Wow. And she has since dedicated her life to helping others succeed. Grabe, no? Just like Mommy MK, our CEO and founder of FHMOMS, it's good to have this kind of community to belong to. And community entrepreneurship and technology are at the heart of everything she does. And she runs a number of businesses and initiatives with the focus on providing a platform for women to harness technology for success. Let me welcome our speaker for today, the CEO and the founder of Connected Women, Ms. Gina Romero. Hi, Ms. Gina.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me here. I'm excited.
I am also excited. I know I've been following the group. I've been a member of Connected Women as well. But you know what, Miss Gina, talking to you like this through online, it gives me chills actually. Tumataas
Well, I'm a little bit nervous, to be honest. I hope that I can answer all of the many questions that I'm sure these ladies have about working with foreign clients. It's such a big topic, right? How can we cover it all?
Yes. But with your expertise and your knowledge, and also with the experiences you've had before, di ba, I remember we were talking backstage a while ago, and wow, it's so impressive that I just love how you have this heart for women, especially that you know, we will be able to look for a career even though we are in the comforts of our homes. So we are so excited, Miss Gina, to be listening to your presentation today. Kaya naman, Mom, sa ating mga FH titas and viewers, please get ready with your notebook because you know what, Miss Gina, if you will stay until the end of our live, I've heard that Miss Gina will be giving us a free gift for all of us. So, kailangan nyo pong tumutok on how to get that free gift because that is so very helpful, especially sa ating mga kababaihan. Am I right, Miss Gina?
Yes, it's something that I created because a lot of the women, the thousands of women that I've met in my 15-year journey of working with women all over the world, they always tell me about one problem that they have. And so I created this little tool to try and help solve that problem for them.
Yes, but for now, I'll give the floor to Miss Gina and sa mga momshies natin, get ready with your notebook, your phones, or whatever you have because this is a lot of things we will be able to learn today and who knows, diba, we will be able to make use of it. Maybe some of you are working with foreign clients already and you want to improve your relationship with your clients, or ikaw yung first time pa lang na magtatrabaho with a foreign client. This is the webinar that is good for you. So, Miss Gina, I'll have the floor with you. Thank you very much. See you later.
See you later. Hello, FH Mommies. I'm so happy to be here with you today. And as introduced, my name is Gina Romero. I'm the co-founder of Connected Women, and we're really all about empowering women through technology skills. So MK is my sister in arms in her mission to empower Filipino women. I met her a few years back. She has always inspired me with her passion and her relentless pursuit of trying to solve this problem for as many women as possible. So I think that it's really great that we've all come together. We finally managed to get a little bit of a partnership together so that we can help each other in our mission. So I want to talk a little bit before I start about why digital adoption is so important and why does Connected Women focus on this? Well, even before the global pandemic broke out last year, Connected Women was advocating for technology skills for women because just like FHMOMS, we really believe that technology is a game changer for women. And I've met so many women, and I'm sure you have too. Maybe you are one of these women who has actually been faced with the decision to actually choose between parenting or family or a career. And in this day and age, technology means that we don't have to make that choice anymore. We have the flexibility, the ability to be able to work from anywhere with anyone. So, you know, if you're one of these ladies who are a little bit technophobic, I used to be a little bit technophobic too, but I saw that technology is really a way for us to embrace, you know, more opportunities. And the digital economy has only just begun, really. There are so many opportunities, and it's a global economy. So as mentioned by Mommy Ruf, there are so many clients out there in the world that need help. And actually, that's one of the reasons why I came back to the Philippines. One part of the reason was because I really wanted to help Filipino women have opportunities to earn from home without having to leave the country or have to deal with a very long commute to work and back every day. And also, I met so many entrepreneurs struggling in their businesses, really struggling, and they just don't know that there are skilled, talented women out there, here in the Philippines especially, who can actually bring the support that they need to be successful and more happy and have more work-life balance for themselves in their businesses too. So whenever you think about clients, don't think of them as sort of they're up here and they're someone who doesn't have the same problems that we have, and then we're sort of here to service them and we have our own problems. A lot of the times, the problems that clients experience are the same challenges that we experience, especially if your client is a lady, right? A mom who also has similar challenges. And I'm sure lots of you who have had long-term relationships with clients will come to the realization that clients are just humans too, with same challenges. They make mistakes, they have frustrations, they get overwhelmed, and all of these things. For those of you who are new to freelancing or the VA world, then you may look at clients and think that a client has got everything together and that you are just applying to a job to help them with, you know, random tasks that they might give you. So hopefully by the end of this talk, you'll have a little bit of a different perspective on what those foreign clients really need, whether they tell you this or not, when they're looking for freelancers and VAs. So just a real quick summary for those of you who are wondering. I'm sorry, my Tagalog is very terrible. I do understand, but I cannot speak well. I was born in the Philippines, but I spent most of my life in the UK. So my mom is Kapampangan. She's from a small town in Porac. And my mom was actually a domestic helper who went over to the UK back in the 70s. So I come from very humble beginnings. My father is British and I grew up in the UK. And then I spent a little bit of time in my mom's hometown in Pampanga when I was in high school, because my parents wanted to be entrepreneurs. So they came back as balikbayan. They started up a pig farming business in Pampanga. And then it was unfortunately blown up by Mount Pinatubo in 1991. And so we lost that whole business. And after my high school and a little bit of trying to go into college, and I dropped out, I then moved back to the UK, and I was lucky enough to get a job as a stewardess for British Airways, which meant that I met people from all over the world and traveled all over the world for 10 years of my life, which I loved, until I couldn't bear to leave my children at home anymore. And so then I met my husband, and he's in tech, he's the techie guy. And so we had an IT company together, which we started at home with just buying and selling laptop computers online. And then we eventually started doing services. And then we moved to Singapore for a job that he was offered. And we lived in Singapore for 6 years. And I've personally been running women's communities for the last 15 years now, from the UK to Singapore and now here in the Philippines. And we came back, the whole family came back in 2016 to launch Connected Women here. And my business partner is Ruth Yu Owen. So she's a Filipina, dynamic woman. I'm sure anyone who has met her or heard of her will know her. And I'm also a mom of 3 boys, 20, 18, and 10, and then 4 fur babies, 2 cats and 2 dogs. That was more than 30 seconds. So that's a little bit about me personally, and I'm now going to talk to you about the topic. So today I'll be sharing some of the secrets that I've learned from mentoring hundreds of foreign clients on how to hire and work with a VA or freelancer. So I come from the other side. Before, when I was in Singapore, I used to actually help Singaporean or international clients, not because it was my job, but just because I was outsourcing some of my business tasks, design, web development, content, and others to the Philippines. I had an amazing team, many of whom are still with me today. And a lot of my friends and networks in Singapore would say, well, how do you find all these amazing people? How can I find someone to work with? So they didn't know how to hire a VA. They didn't know how to work remotely. And they certainly didn't know how to hire from the Philippines. And I said, listen, we have so much talent in the Philippines. Just go on here and look for someone and hire them. And I realized that a lot of them struggle. Like, it's actually quite difficult to figure out how to hire a VA when you're a client who's never hired a VA before. So I'm going to share with you today some of the challenges that the clients themselves have when they're hiring VAs, because they also don't always know what to do. And they also make mistakes as well. So I'm going to go through a few tips with you today. Well, a lot of tips. So I'm going to cram as much as I can into the time that we have. But before we start, I would love to know a little bit about you, please comment in the chat and tell me, where are you watching from? So what country or city of residence are you from? Are you already a freelancer? So you're currently freelancing, or maybe you're currently a VA or an EA or some kind of online job. Or are you just aspiring to become a freelancer or VA? So tell me in the comments. I might not have time to check all the comments right now, but I'll keep glancing at it. But I promise that as soon as the presentation is over, I'm going to go and check all of your comments, and I'll reply to as many as I can, probably tonight and over the next few days. So tell me about that. And also, I'd love to know, have you actually worked with a client before? Or are you one of these people who is still thinking about it? You know, you're still a little bit early on in your career and you haven't yet landed the client. Or maybe you're working mainly with local clients and you haven't experienced working with a foreign client before. And if you are working with a foreign client, then tell me if you have any challenges. What challenges do you have? And what do you want to learn today? How can I add value to your day and the time that you've taken out to invest in yourself? And if you haven't yet started working with foreign clients, are you nervous or anxious about it? And if so, what is it that scares you? What is it that's on your mind that worries you about working with foreign or international clients? So post those types of comments in the chat. Of course, you can post anything you like in the chat, but I would love to know these answers if you wouldn't mind sharing with me. So I'm going to start by sharing with you one of the first pieces of advice I ever give clients when they ask me how to hire a VA. And so the first thing I ask them before I tell them anything else is, have you identified the tasks that you need to stop doing and the tasks that you should be doing instead? Right? Because we only have so many hours in the day, and I'm pretty sure that most of us spend a lot of time doing things that someone else could be doing. But because we don't have anyone to hand it over to, or nobody else knows how to do it, we just end up doing a lot of the stuff ourselves. And I think there are two types of tasks that you need to stop doing. You need to stop doing the tasks that you're not very good at doing. If you're not good at doing something, you really need to offload that to someone who is much better at doing it. But the other type of task is the tasks that you really hate doing. If you don't like doing a task, even if you're quite okay at doing it, you're not going to have a very fun day. You're not going to enjoy your work, and you're not going to really feel motivated and excited to get to work every day if you have a list of things that you really don't like doing. So it's really important when I speak to clients that they try to understand what are those tasks that they need to offload. And if they could offload those tasks, what would they be doing with their time? I will explain why this is relevant to you in a little bit. But I think it's really important to remember that clients that hire a VA, especially those hiring a VA for the first time, and by the way, some of these tips are not only specific to foreign clients. Some of these tips are for any clients, whether they're local, foreign, or anywhere. But I think there are a few that are very specific to foreign clients as well. So most of the clients that I've met that are hiring, especially for the first time, don't know what they need to delegate. That's the first thing. All they know is they have too much stuff to do and they're exhausted and overwhelmed, but they actually haven't yet identified, and they don't really know exactly what they need to delegate or in what priority. Maybe they have a really long list of things that they want to delegate, but they can't delegate all of those things because there's too many. They don't know how to manage their time. Yes, the secret is out. A lot of clients are not good at managing their time, and they spend a lot of time running around doing things that they shouldn't really be doing and that are not productive for their business success. So don't assume that a client actually knows how to manage their time well. The third thing is a lot of clients don't actually know how to work with or manage a VA or a freelance team. They don't know. They've never done it before. Maybe they've Googled it. Maybe they've read a few different blogs about it, but they've never actually done it. So they don't really know how to do it. So they're also learning. So you may be much more experienced in working with clients as a freelancer than they are in terms of working with freelancers. So remember that. 4, a lot of clients will not have systems in place and will be disorganized. So do expect that. Don't expect that, if you've worked for a corporate and you've come into departments that are really well organized, where you have proper onboarding, proper processes, proper training, and a lot of guidance around your job. When you go to work for a client, many clients, new and established clients, they won't have that, especially if they're a startup, a small business, or a solopreneur. They will have a lot of things in their head and they won't know how to organize themselves. And the fifth one is many clients will have thought about hiring a VA, and they have somehow convinced themselves that hiring a VA or a freelancer is going to solve all of their problems in their business. Can anyone relate to this? Comment in the chat if you have experienced clients that come with these types of expectations. So the first thing a client really needs to do before they are VA ready or freelancer ready is to audit their time. I cannot stress how important knowing how you're spending your time is. Regardless of whether you're a boss, junior person, a freelancer, an entrepreneur, whatever, you must know how you spend your time in the day, because if you don't know how you spend your time, just like money, your time will just disappear. If you don't budget and know how you spend your money, then your money will disappear. So I always tell clients, audit your time and understand what is really important to you before you even hire a VA. And most of the clients that I've ever met are overwhelmed with doing everything themselves. So they really are doing everything themselves and they haven't tried to delegate, but they are even more overwhelmed at the idea of hiring a freelancer or a VA because they don't know how. So just remember that when you have interviews with clients, they may not show it, but they may actually be also a little bit anxious and not really know what they're doing. But sometimes when you're the client or if you're the boss, you feel like you shouldn't show that you don't know what you're doing. So you kind of fake it. But just remember at the back of your mind that if you ask a client, oh, is this your first time to hire a VA or a freelancer? Or is this your first time to work with a remote team member in the Philippines? That will be a little sign for you to know that some of these on the list that I've just told you about may be challenges that your client is experiencing. Okay, so the most important thing to remember is more than anything, no matter what the client says to you, right? So when you have your conversation about why they're hiring you, whatever job it is that they want you to do, whatever task they want you to do, they might tell you a lot of different things and reasons why they're hiring a VA or a freelancer. But underneath all of that, almost all, if not all the clients that I've ever met only want to solve one problem in their life, which is they need and they want more time, right? Relatable. We all feel the same way. I feel like that as well. I need more time in my life. It's the one resource that is limited, and it doesn't matter how rich you are or how privileged you are or how successful you are, we still have the same amount of time. So it's up to us to decide how we spend that time. And you'll see this image is the rocks in a jar image, and there's a beautiful parable about rocks in a jar and how it illustrates how we spend our time and how we prioritize our time. So you can check that out online. There's YouTube videos about it if you've never heard of that story. So make sure that when you're listening to your client, when you're talking to your client about potential projects, you're always bearing in mind that no matter what they say, they're always trying to figure out how to make more time in their day. And one of the things that I think is one of the biggest mistakes that clients themselves make when they're trying to hire a VA is that they hire a VA thinking that they will manage the VA or the freelancer. But in reality, what they really want is the VA or the freelancer to help manage them. Now, I don't know if you believe me or not, but when I hire a VA or an EA, I'm hiring someone to manage me. Basically, I want a boss. When you run your own business, you're only accountable to yourself, and that is really hard. So a lot of the time, if I hire a VA or when I work with my EA, I want someone who's focused on my business, who understands my objectives, who will be my number one supporter in making sure that I stay on track and work towards my goals, and that I get to where I'm trying to get to. So in other words, I want my VA to kick my butt and not the other way around, because that saves me time and it saves me space in my brain so that I can think about other more strategic parts of my business and I can be more effective and more productive. So the typical clients the typical questions that clients hiring a VA for the first time ask me. So remember, they've come to me, they said, oh, I want to hire a VA, but I'm a little bit stuck. I wonder if you could help. And I say, sure. These are the typical questions that clients ask me. And as a VA, these are some warning signs that you can look out for when you're actually going through interviews or prospecting for work or talking proposals with clients. Just listen out for some of these warning signs, and I'll give some tips on how to address these sort of different challenges that you might experience with clients. And again, lots of this is very much common to all clients, not just foreign clients. But I think for clients that are hiring, they come from outside of the Philippines and they're hiring Filipino remote team members, they don't always understand our culture. We don't always understand their culture. So it just makes it a little bit more challenging sometimes. So one of the first questions that they ask me is, what type of VA should I hire? Because they say, I need help with everything. Right? I need help with design. I need help with accounting. I need help with copywriting. I need help with social media marketing. I need to build my website. They'll basically make a list. If I ask them, like, okay, what type of VA do you need to hire? They'll list all the tasks that they themselves want to offload, not necessarily what one person could actually do. So I'm sure that VAs and freelancers in the audience have experienced this, where you go to speak to a client and you say, tell me what my tasks will be, what will be my responsibilities. And the list is like ridiculous. It's like 10 people. So it's because these clients haven't really prioritized what they need to delegate. They haven't taken the time to understand their own situation, their own goals, their own priorities in their business, and their own sort of skills and preferences. They just haven't had time probably to even think about that. So a tip for handling a client who seems very vague about the role, or the role seems too big, is to really guide them to prioritize what they really want you to focus on, right? Whatever you do, don't take a job where it's really like running the whole business instead of 10 people doing the jobs, right? Don't fall for that trap. So you really have to get clear with that type of client and ask them, okay, ask them questions. Say, okay, I understand that you have all of these things that you want to do in your business, and that's great. Could I just ask, what are you really focusing on this year? What is the most important priority for you this year? So you can actually guide and coach them to trying to get some clarity about what is it really that you can do for them that will actually make a difference in their business. So that's the first one. I've got so many. The second one is when they ask the question, or they ask me the question, how much should I budget for my VA? Or how much should I, and how do I pay my VA, right? So when you're having a conversation with a client, they might ask something like, what's your rate? Pretty common question, you would expect that. And how would I pay you? Now, that could be a telltale sign that they're really new to this and they don't really understand the rates, right? They haven't hired before, because a client who's a little bit more confident in hiring will have an idea of their budget or their rate. So try and sense from their answers and questions around this topic how confident they are with understanding rates of hiring a VA or freelancer, or hiring a VA and freelancer in the Philippines. If they haven't done their research and they have no idea, then a tip for handling this type of client would be having a very clear amount in mind of how you charge, right? So understand your pricing structure and then explain that pricing structure to the client. So I typically charge on a per project basis, because some clients might just Google like how much to pay a VA and they'll read some ridiculous article saying $1 per hour or something that was from like the 90s and talking about India. And they'll say something like, oh, I'm offering $2 an hour, $1 an hour. It might be completely outside of your rate, but it might be that they just don't know. So what you could say is, well, I don't typically charge per hour. I charge per project, and we scope out the project together. And then this is the fixed price for the project. And, this is what I'm going to deliver for the project. Or maybe you do charge per hour, that's fine. But make sure you clarify to the client if their expectations around cost are not correct, and just explain like sort of how your rates work. And a pro tip, if a client has less budget than your cost of delivering a project, then don't be afraid to negotiate to reduce the scope of the project rather than reducing the rate that you're providing to the client. So let's say, for example, the client says, okay, I have a big rebranding project and I need your help to create all my brochures, my website, my business cards, and my budget is, I don't know, $500, for example. I'm making up numbers. If they say that, and you know that it's going to cost twice as much for them to do that with you, what you could say is, well, that's a little bit outside of my rate. But what we could do is we could start with the brochure first and the website first, and then we can basically design the rest of it from there, because for your budget, that's pretty much all I can cover within my rate for now. And that might also help them understand how your rate works and what a reasonable rate would be. So don't just take the project and then be really upset that the client is paying you half the rate that you would have expected for that project, right? So always think about that. They don't always know. And the third one in this set is, what tasks should I give my VA? So if a client asks me, what tasks can I give my VA? To me, the translation of that is they don't really know what a VA is, right? Because if they know what a VA is, they should know what tasks they can give a VA. They should know that a general VA can take on, sort of a few specialized areas, but probably mainly generalist tasks. And if you're hiring a designer, then the designer is probably not going to be great at finance. They're probably not going to be great at, other things, unless they're very lucky and find a designer finance person. So if a person asks that type of question to you, or if they're trying to ask you to do tasks that are well outside of your scope, then just remember that they may not really know, because they have this idea that VAs can do everything. And maybe some can, but most of us cannot. So a tip for handling this type of client is make sure that you're really specific about how you can help them, right? And the benefit to them. So what you could say is, well, finance and admin is not really my strong suit, but what I can do is I can help you improve your branding and your online presence so you can generate more clients, and then you can invest in hiring someone to take care of your finance and admin. Something like that, right? Like, try and steer it into the direction that tells them that this is how I'm going to help you achieve that goal, but I'm not the right person to do that job. And I think, sometimes when we feel pressured financially or otherwise that we need to take on projects, we can make mistakes and take on a project that we probably shouldn't have taken on because it was outside of our area of expertise, or maybe our gut feel told us that we shouldn't take it, but we took it anyway. And sadly, that causes more headache, right, in the end. So I've learned from painful mistakes that if a project doesn't fit or a client doesn't fit at the early stage, as much as it's hard to say no or walk away from a job, I will walk away, because I don't want to have the headache of making a mistake and taking on a project that I should never have taken on. And I'm sure others will relate to that as well. So the fourth one is really when they say, I really need to get help, but I don't have a system in place. So the translation of that is that they are in a mess and they don't know how to delegate. I'm sorry, maybe not necessarily that, but if they don't have a system in place and they don't know how they're going to hand over, you could ask them the question during the early stages of conversation: how will you be handing over, and how will you be giving me access to your tools and your materials that you want me to work on? How they answer that question will let you know in advance whether or not this is going to be a smooth handover and a seamless delegation of tasks, or whether it's going to be a very difficult handover or delegation of tasks. Now, I'm not saying that you can't work with these types of clients. I'm just saying that make sure that you know what you're getting into before you step into this type of role. Because if you're going to go into a job where a client doesn't have any systems or processes in place, then ideally, the first person that they hire should be a little bit competent in putting systems in place. Otherwise, it's just going to be a mess. So now I learned, again, from painful mistakes, that if I was to start again brand new with a new business, the first person I would hire is that person who's good at systems and processes, because I'm not good at that. I'm good at thinking about systems, but I'm not actually good at making the systems. So just try and understand your client early on by the clues that they give you when you're having these early conversations. And a tip for handling this type of client would be to ask them to share their priorities and objectives again for this year. You can never go wrong by asking a client what their priorities and objectives are, because it helps you understand, outside of all of these things that are on their mind, these small tasks, these projects that they need to do, what are they really trying to do? Because they often won't share that with you. and try and understand what is really taking up most of their time and making them stressed, and what could they be doing, what better use of their time, what could they do with their time, which would be better use of their time if they were able to offload some of these things that they shouldn't really be doing. So it goes back to that very first thing. Remember that number one tip that I mentioned? And finally, for this section, this is a funny one, but I honestly have been asked this question before. And the question is, can I get an AI assistant to do the work for me instead? Now, it seems like a strange question, but the translation of that is, I've heard about AI and I don't really know how it works. And maybe you don't really know that much about how AI works. I've started to take a real interest in AI because Connected Women is working a little bit on AI projects right now, but I'm definitely not an expert in AI. But what I do know is that an AI cannot replace a human virtual assistant, and probably would not ever replace a human virtual assistant in our lifetime or ever. So I do take that question quite seriously, even though it sounds like a strange question, because there are a lot of myths out there about AI and automation, and it can be quite confusing for everyone, including potential clients and business owners. And I just want to touch on this topic a little bit more because I think it's quite important. What tasks can be delegated to a human virtual assistant and what can be automated to AI? So, technology is advancing so rapidly, it's really quite incredible. And there's a lot of fear around losing jobs, right? And because of automation and everything else. But I think what we really need to think about is that while robots are becoming increasingly intelligent, there are some things that they just really can't learn to do. So robots are good at complex, repetitive tasks, collecting and storing information, finding information, processing information, and then making predictions based on information. But there are a lot of things that it's really hard to teach a robot to do. For example, if you think about understanding nuances, very subtle language, for example, things like humor, things like sarcasm, things like flirting, things like passive aggression, insinuation, innuendo. I don't know if you're familiar with these words. I love words, and these are words about human behavior, so I love them. But how can a robot tell the difference between someone who's flirting and someone who's just saying, have a nice day, or have a nice day? I don't know how to flirt. But anyway, these are things that robots, it's just so hard to train. And imagine all the languages in the whole of the world, and all the dialects in all of the world, and all the accents in all of the world. It's so hard for, and all the cultures as well. It's so hard for a robot to learn these things. Empathy and ethics. We haven't yet figured out how to teach a robot how to feel, although we can teach it how to mimic human feelings. But nobody has yet discovered how to actually make a robot feel. And speech recognition. So anyone who has Siri, Alexa, Google, any of these sort of like digital assistants, you'll know that even though it's been years since they first launched, this speech recognition has improved, but it's still quite bad. And again, because we have so many accents, dialects, the way that we talk in the Philippines alone would be very confusing and difficult to train a robot to learn that. And of course, common sense. Common sense is something that we innately know. Like, I know that I shouldn't pick up something hot with my bare hands, but a robot wouldn't know that unless you taught it. So things like this are very difficult for robots to learn without being taught. And you would have to teach them everything in order for them to be really smart. And then strategic thinking. So when it comes to conceptualizing an idea, coming up with an idea, and planning how to put an idea into action, robots are not great at doing that. So as humans in a workforce that will become increasingly hybrid, human plus machines, in the future, in the near future, it's really important that we continue to understand, where can AI add value? And as humans, what are the valuable skills that we can continue to improve on that will not be replaced in the future of work? And this is one of my passion topics, so I had to inject it in here, even though it's not exactly the topic. But I promise you, it is a question that clients ask me, and they really think that they can just get a robot like Sophia who will just do their stuff for them. And they don't know that behind Sophia is a very sophisticated team of engineers and mathematicians and coders that actually code every single part of her behavior. So those of you who are worried about automation, it's right to be worried because menial tasks are definitely being outsourced to AI. But my pro tip for you is study how to use simple systemization and automation tools like Zapier, for example, because these are very much in-demand skills. And clients will really value if repetitive tasks can be automated in their business so that you and they can focus on more sort of higher level and more important human skills during the hours that you're working. So I'm just going to now give you a few classic mistakes that I think we can avoid when working with foreign clients. So the first one is set expectations and really be honest about your areas of expertise. Don't be afraid to say, no, that's not in my area of expertise when you're scoping out a job, because it's really difficult to go back on that later. So you can be a generalist, you can be a specialist, you can be good at certain things. Just tell the client upfront if there are certain things that you're not that good at, and let them know that they may need to invest additional resources for them to actually get that task done. That's the first one. The second one is make sure that you're very, very clear early on about your availability, response times, output, and how to report. Because as moms, we are busy. We may not be 100% focused and available during a 9 till 6 or whatever the working hours are. You can actually tell your client that I'm much more productive from 7 a.m. till 11 a.m. And then my son has homeschooling. I'm still available, but the only thing is I still have to help him. So I'm not always fully focused, but then I can be back to work and at my desk again from 3 p.m. to whatever p.m. So set those expectations, because almost all clients that I've ever met are quite accommodating and willing to give flexibility when they understand that the time that you're asking for will make you more productive for them. Right? So don't be afraid if client says, I need you to report at this time and this time. Don't be afraid to ask if you can split your shifts or anything like that. It's not too demanding to ask that. And if they don't want to be accommodating, then maybe they're not the right client for you, because it won't work well within your lifestyle and your other commitments. The next one is expecting a client to know everything and to manage your time and priorities. So make sure that you know that even if they're the boss and they're the client, it's your job to manage your time and your priorities. We need to get great at time management. So that thing that I talked about, the time audit, you really need to do that for yourself if you've never done it. I strongly recommend it. It's an amazing activity. You just do a list of everything that you do in the day, like every 30 minutes or every 1 hour, and you do that for 1 or 2 weeks. You just list down everything. At the end of the 2 weeks, you look at how you spend your time. So get really good at managing your time and being really organized, because this is one of the skills I always look for in a VA or an EA that I hire. Because if my VA isn't good at managing time, it's not going to work for me, because I need someone to manage my time and my priorities and help me stay more effective. So if I have to manage someone else's time and priorities, I'm going to get frustrated. I don't have the patience, unfortunately. So remember, you don't assume that the client themselves will know how to manage their own time, and learn how to manage upwards. So managing upwards means that even though they might be your boss or your client, you need to learn polite ways to get them on track and keep them on track and remind them of priorities and make sure that they're always doing what they say they should be doing. And that's a real skill. So if you are good at managing upwards and managing clients in that way, you have a really great, very in-demand skill. And if you're new, then really focus on learning that skill, because you will never be short of clients if you are good at managing upwards. And the fourth one is, make sure that you communicate if you're not clear about instructions. A classic example is that clients are so busy that they will expect that you won't always get a very full and detailed outline of any plan from them. So sometimes the instructions will be vague, and you may need to put thinking into it to try and organize that information that's been given to you into a sort of loose plan or an outline, and then identify where the gaps are in the information. For example, if a client says, oh, I really need this done, it's really urgent, here are 3 things. Well, when do they actually need it done? What does urgent mean? Is that tomorrow? Is that in 4 hours? Is that by next week? Make sure that you know these minor details, right? Who is going to do it? Is there something that they need to do as part of this for it to be done on time? Do they know that you need to give it back to them and they need to approve it so that it can be done in time for their deadline? Things like that. Never make assumptions and don't be afraid to ask questions. And make sure that you've exhausted all the other ways to answer a question before you ask your client. So if it's something that only your client will know how to answer, then ask them immediately to clarify. But if it's how to do something and you can Google it and find it online, always try and find any other way to figure out how to do something before you ask your client. That could be asking a friend, that could be, watching some YouTube videos, whatever it could be. Try not to ask clients things that you could find online. And I think, depending on the client, some might be more patient than others, but a lot of foreign clients tend to be quite impatient about things like that. So Google is your best friend. If you can't find it on Google or anywhere else, then ask. And finally, this is so important. A classic mistake, not invoicing on time and not collecting your money. Please don't ever feel embarrassed or shy to collect your money or to send an invoice. Send an invoice as soon as you possibly can. You can ask the client, I've completed the project, I've submitted everything, I've sent you the report. Is it okay if I send you an invoice? They will say yes, because of course, you will then send them an invoice and then make a reminder to remind yourself to follow them up within 7 days or whatever is reasonable. If you have 14-day, if you have immediate terms, follow them up 7 days after, really politely. Just a gentle reminder that I did send the invoice, as I mentioned last week, and it would be really great if you could take a look at that. It's in your email, right? Something like that. But don't be ashamed to follow up your invoices and remind, because honestly, the worst thing for a client is that someone sent an invoice because they did some work for you, and someone did some work for you, but they didn't send the invoice. And then 6 months later, you suddenly receive the invoice and the freelancer or the VA says, oh, I'm sorry, it's so late, I forgot to send it. It's not professional, and it actually messes with the cash flow of the client. So bill on time and don't be shy to collect your money. And I'm always amazed at how many freelancers do this. Really experienced freelancers forget to bill or don't collect their money. So do that. Always do that. And I think this one is a little bit tricky, and I'm going to try and tackle it independently. But this is about understanding the personality and the culture of your client in the context of oversharing. So if you think about the Philippines culture, I'm from both sides, right? So I understand both sides. So in the Philippines, it's not impolite to ask, like, oh, I like your house. How much is your rent? Right? Like my mother-in-law, my mom, my tita, anyone. If they come to my house, they want to know. They want to know, oh, I like your shoes. Where did you buy them? How much was it? So in British culture, it's kind of not really done. Like you don't really ask the cost of something. It's kind of impolite to do that. And so it's something that sometimes I laugh inwardly when Filipinos just comfortably ask about pricing, right? Because I know that in British culture, that would be a little bit awkward. So things like that. None of us know the cultures of all the people, and we can't assume that just because a person is British, then they're this way, just because a person is Filipino, they're this way. So take time to observe the behavior of your client and understand how they are. Like, do they share a lot about their family and their kids with you? Then if so, that's okay for you to share back. Do they share the intimate details of their health situation with you? If so, that's okay. But if they're a little bit more aloof, like, step backwards, a little bit, distant, and they prefer to keep things very professional, then follow their lead as well. Because I find it quite funny when sort of just Filipinos everywhere are quite happy to share about their menstruation, right? Like, oh, I'm on my second day today. Yeah, my flow's kind of heavy, so I'm feeling kind of tired. You would never do that in England. I don't think even girls talk to girls about their periods. I can't remember. Honestly, it's been a long time since I've been in Asia, but there are certain things that are just kind of not done. So, really observe sensitivities and the personality of the client, and try and understand their comfort zone in terms of how much they feel comfortable with sharing, because that's really important, you know, especially when you have family problems. In the Philippines, we talk about it, we share about it, but some cultures are not comfortable hearing that much information. So that's almost the end, and I'm just going to run through real quick my sort of, not my top tips, but just some of the important tips that I can think of, because there are just too many to share. Just to summarize some of the things that I've already shared with you, to be honest, it's like a recap. So the last one that I mentioned is really important in terms of foreign clients, is really understand the culture of the person that you're working with, their personality, and their business culture. Those are all different things. So you've got to try and understand where they're comfortable and how you fit into it all. The second one is to really manage yourself well, manage your own time well, be very proactive and self-learn, because that's really important to all clients. But I think, as I mentioned, foreign clients are a little bit impatient sometimes depending on their personality, their culture, and everything else, about having to teach you something that you could have figured out yourself. And be very clear and concise and prompt when you communicate. But one of the things that I've observed that Filipino culture and other Asian cultures tend to do, that foreign cultures don't tend to do, is to be very formal in how you communicate, right? To whom it may concern, please find attached there to, here to, I don't even know how, you know, your my CV for your perusal. And people don't really talk like that anymore, and except lawyers and accountants. Sorry, lawyers and accountants. But generally speaking, a lot of foreign companies and clients will prefer to be more fluent and simpler in the way that we use words. We don't really necessarily want to use big, complicated words. Make it as short and concise as possible and as clear as possible, which is much harder than writing long messages sometimes. And just make sure that you're very warm and friendly and professional. And I think that's what people look for, rather than very academic type, school type graded big word content. And I really find that a lot coming from the Philippines and also Singapore, India, you know, countries where we really take pride in our education and learning English as a second language, but it's really not necessary. So being very concise and clear is much, much more important. And this one is pretty important. Remember that respect should go both ways, right? So, there's one last thing that I want to touch on actually in terms of communication. Ask your client how they would prefer to be addressed, because a lot of foreign clients are not comfortable with being called ma'am or sir or miss. They just rather be called by their first name. So just ask them, how would you prefer I address you? Should I call you by your name, or would you prefer that I call you so? Just ask them how would they like to be addressed, and just go with that. I know that it's a little bit uncomfortable sometimes for Filipinos, because we're brought up from children to have this very respectful way of talking to people who are more senior to us or older than us, but it's just not common practice in some foreign countries and companies, and so it can actually make your client feel uncomfortable if you call them sir or ma'am. So don't just think that because it's respectful for you, it's respectful for them. So I think it's really important to get comfortable with whatever they are more comfortable with. And I strongly, strongly encourage that. No matter how young or old you are, it's not really about that for a lot of foreigners. It's really just about mutual respect and being on a level playing field, and not sort of having to address a person in a certain way just because they're older or they're your boss. It's just not practice. And the final one that I was going to say is, remember that respect really does go both ways. So, you know, you should expect your client to respect you as much as you respect them. Please don't put yourself in a position where you've put them, either because they've treated you like this, or in your own mind, you've put them up here and you've put yourself down here. And I see it all the time. And sometimes I do it. It's just a bad habit that we do. But we just have to remember that, you know, you have skills, you have value, they need you as much as you need them, and respect should always, always be mutual. And I, after years of putting up with the other scenario and not being respected and treated well, I've actually stopped tolerating it now. So if someone doesn't respect me and treat me decently, then I don't really care how much money they want to pay me or how important they think they are. It's not worth it to me because I've learned my own self-respect, and I don't think that I deserve to be treated in that way. And finally, you really may need to kiss a few frogs before you find that perfect client type for you, that you work really well with, that makes your life a joy. Not all clients will be like this, but hopefully, you should have a mix of like really clients that you love working with, a few that you don't mind working with, and some that are like, okay, but, definitely try not to compromise too much of your own happiness and stress just because of projects, because there are a lot of clients out there, a lot of really great clients out there waiting for you. So don't waste your time, just like in relationships, don't waste your time on that wrong one for too long. And this is something that I really believe. Decide what is a deal breaker for you. I mentioned that I expect to be treated with respect by my clients, and I also want to work with people who are kind. And a deal breaker for me is someone unkind. I can work with difficult people, I can work with demanding people, I can work with unreasonable people, but I would never work with unkind people, not for any money. Trust takes time to earn, respect takes time to earn, but every being deserves to be treated kindly. So if you're ever talking to or working with a client or boss and they're an unkind person, run away. That's my best advice. Life is too short and you are worth so much more than that. So on that note, I will hand back to the team for a short break, and then don't go anywhere because we'll have a little bit of Q&A and I'll be sharing my free gifts with you. Thanks for watching. You're on mute, Mommy Ruf.
Okay, I'm on mute. Sorry. Okay, sorry for that. Thank you very much, Ms.Gina. I've learned and written a lot from your webinar today. So I know you mga mommies natin. Mommies, do you agree? Type in yes if you have learned so much today. Grabe, hapon lang, moms, pero ang dami na nating natutunan. But we'll be pausing for a quick ad break. And after that, we will be entertaining some of your questions. We hope to read most of your questions, mga momshies. Kaya naman, we'll be pausing for a quick break. We'll be having, Ms.Gina will be having a water break as well. And we'll be right back. So let's watch.
I am married through Obilio Caampued. I am turning 40 next month, and I am from General Trias, Cavite. Some materials, what I love about this is that it is well prepared by the trainer itself. So, yung objectives were clear and the lessons were well aligned to the objectives. So, I am sure na yung gusto niyang matutunan namin as students are all there, and it is well outlined actually kasi dahil teacher ako by profession, alam ko yung technicalities of it, and she know her craft, yung alam niya everything about it. So she really taught us every detail of that we need to know. She even prepared us dun sa mga interview questions, how we can get client immediately, ganyan. So, hindi lang siya about the craft. And what I really love about her is she taught us with the heart. Never kong pinagsisihan na sa FHMOM ako nag-enroll, that I took the e-learning from FHMOM. Kasi from the community to the lesson to the trainer, sobrang mararamdaman mo yung support. Yung e-learning ni FHMOM speaks ng sobrang truth about the community itself. Kung ano yung nakikita mo sa FHMOM community page, ganun yung mararamdaman mo during the lessons.
So, hi, my name is Cherise Ann Science and I'm from Tondo, Manila. And my feedback about the course that I took with FHMOMS, I am happy. I'm not disappointed at all. I'm actually glad that I took the chance because I learned a lot of new skills under this course. Our training is very accommodating na kahit anong oras ka magtanong, she will answer you and will enlighten you on how to do the task. The tools that we have are easy to access and understand. So yung mga beginners, hindi talaga kayo mahihirapan. Madali siyang intindihin at kayang-kayang i-take ng beginners. And overall, I'm very satisfied with the full training process and materials because I saw the value of what we paid for, what I paid for. Actually, it's more than what I paid for. Kasi aside from the learning materials, I learned new skills. I was guided by a trainer na competitive if not and knowledgeable with the service or the course. And aside from that, I also gained new friends who are very supportive. It's a community that help each other. So it's very refreshing na someone from the other side of the country or the world that are willing to help you achieve your goals as well as a mom or as a person. So that's very inspiring for me. So my message to all of the women who are aspiring to become a competent freelancer, to all of the moms out there, titas, and anyone who are aspiring to have a work from home career, especially during the pandemic, I would like to encourage all of you to check all of the e-learning services on this community because it helped me a lot. So, even though most of us have work experience na, kahit saang field man yan, it's still best for us to invest in ourselves.
My name is Lorian Gatula from FHMOMS Cavite. Yung work experience mo sa corporate world is not enough sa setup ngayon ng working from home. So, kailangan mo talagang mag-skill. Lahat yun, ma'am, sa FHMOMS ko talaga natutunan. Ang dami kong tiningnan na group, ang dami kong pinag-aralang courses, pero talagang nag-trust and nagtiwala lang ako sa FHMOMS. From the outline pa lang, makikita mo na yung details nung ano yung expectations mo kapag graduate ka dun sa course na yun. Napaka-supportive ng mga trainers from the very start. As in, they will motivate you and they will push you to their limit kasi alam nila na kaya mo yun, kaya mong gawin yun. Masasabi mo talaga na ready ka kasi yung lahat ng kailangan ng potential employer mo is maituturo talaga sa'yo sa mastery course ng FHMOMS. And we're very lucky na nandiyan ang FHMOMS trainers and communities para i-guide tayo hanggang makakuha tayo ng trabaho.
Hi, I'm Christine Marie Cardio, 36 from Valenzuela City. I recommend FHMOMS, yung e-learning nila because ito yung na-experience ko na may interaction ng bawat magkakaklase or bawat isa dun sa sa batch namin. So ito kasi meron kayong sharing of thoughts, meron kayong once a week meeting which is kailangan yung i-discuss kung ano yung mga challenges nyo na nakakaharap within those given tasks. And most of all, personalize yung pagbibigay ng mga lesson. I mean, yung pag-outline ng lesson. Nandun yung alam mo na itinrim sa'yo yung lesson na yon para maintindihan mo.
And we are back! Ayan, may pahangin effect pa. Medyo mainit ngayon mga momshies. Ayan, there you go. You know what mga momshies? Last day na po ng extension ng enrollment natin sa ating mga mastery courses. Kaya naman kung hindi pa kayo nag-enroll, habol na because few slots na lang po ang available. And we are back and once again, I'll be introducing, we have again our guest speaker for today, Miss Gina. Ayan, Miss Gina. Oh, you're on mute.
Hi.
Yeah, there you go. I think Miss Gina, before we proceed to our Q&A, I know yung mga mommies natin, they have a lot of questions to ask to you. Can you also promote how can we connect with you? And also, I've heard that you have a free gift. You have a gift for all of us.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, thank you so much to FH Moms for being such a great sisters in arms of connected women and for your collaboration. This year, we finally got it together to put a formal collaboration in place. So I believe that you guys have been sharing our various different program and events with your community. So thank you so much for that. So for anyone who would like to know about our upcoming events and different activities at Connected Women, you can go to connectedwomen.co/join, and that will get you in our newsletter, so you'll get the invitations of all the different things, because there's so much stuff happening at Connected Women. So go ahead and join, and then you'll get the updates. And then for my free gift, can I share? Yes, let me share here. So I mentioned something quite a few times during this presentation, and I mentioned it's something that we struggle with, like everyone seems to struggle with. It's something that almost every talk I go to, it's one of the questions that is asked to me, whether it's a client presentation, whether it's a community of moms. This is really, really common, especially for women. And that question is, how do you manage all your time with all the things that you need to do? Or how can, they'll ask me, how can I manage my time better when I have a family, I have all this stuff happening, right? Like, how can I manage my time better? And as I mentioned earlier, time management is so important. It's such an undervalued skill, I think. And I spend a lot of time studying and understanding how to be a better time manager, and how to be more productive with my time, how to maximize every minute in my day. So last year, as a passion project, I created this planner. Wow. It's a free downloadable planner. It's called the Be Unconventional Planner, because I believe that everyone has an unconventional self in there that is ready to break out of the mold and be courageous and follow their dreams. So the tagline is a simple, beautiful planner to inspire you to find your purpose and have the courage to live an unconventional life, whatever that might be for you. So what it does is it helps you break down your aspiration or your dream into very actionable steps. So this is not like a journal. It really helps you break it down. So you can use it for business, you can use it for life. And you break it down into goals, into monthly milestones, and into actions. And then it also guides you to write down the support that you need, the inspiration, for example, your daily affirmation and things like that. So you can go and just go right ahead here to my personal website, ginaromero.com, and just go to the planner page, and it's completely free. And you can either replicate it in a notebook, or you can print it out.
Wow. And of course, there you go. Thank you very much, Ms. Gina. Once again, we will be flashing on the screen the link where to get the free planner. You know what, mga mommies, I've already downloaded it a while ago. I am so excited to have the hard copies kasi ako, you know what, Ms. Gina, personally, what I do, I love to write. So I have a book, I need something to write on, because that would help me to be more organized, to manage my time. Well, naku, makaka-relate ang mga momshies natin to manage our time properly. And now for our Q&A. So we'll be reading some of our questions. Our first question is from, let's see, kanino kaya ang mga katanungan? Once again, we've already flashed on screen yung mga links to remember. So this time we'll be reading questions from our mommy viewers. And we have, you know what, Ms. Gina, based on the comments, we have viewers from Coronado City, from anywhere in the Philippines, actually. Wow, hello.
Looking at the comments, there's so many nice comments. Thank you for commenting.
Yes. So, okay. So I think, do we have questions? Okay, there you go. Mula from Mommy Lorraine Filesol. Hello po, Mom. I'm a little sensitive about having a Christian client as much as possible, and I am applying with an Australian client. Is it okay to politely ask them or just research from their profile if they are Christian or not? Thank you. Wow, great
That's
question.
a really good question. Super
Yes.
good question. Thank you so much, Lorraine, for asking this question. So, that's actually very sensitive for foreign clients. So here in the Philippines, remember I told the example of, like how Filipinos are quite comfortable just asking you how much something costs. Well, there are certain things in foreign companies, foreign countries and in organizations like foreign companies where you're not actually allowed to ask certain things, because of racism, because of discrimination. So in the UK, for example, you're not allowed to ask someone what their background is. You can't say, "Oh, where are you from?" If they look foreign or different, you can't ask. I don't think you're even allowed to ask, like, "Do you have children?" Things like that. So there's a lot of cultural sensitivities around anything that could be seen to be discriminated against. But of course, from your perspective, I completely understand that you're looking for someone with aligned values to you, and so that's important to you. So that's also understandable. But I think probably something that you wouldn't want to ask directly to a client, just because they may wonder if you're sort of if you're discriminating or looking at it from a different perspective. So, but I think what you could probably do is, I do this anyway, whether I'm hiring someone, and I expect if someone is hiring me, I always look them up online, right? I want to see what is publicly available about them, and are they the type of person that behaves and carries themselves in the type of way that I would be comfortable with. Because even a Christian person, to be honest, you might look at their profile and they might not be the type of person that you necessarily want to work with, because, different people have different values. So I definitely think that find as much information as possible about any client that you want to work with. And then whatever your personal reasons are for choosing and selecting a client to work with, then you can just make your assessment on what's publicly available. And then maybe you'll find out more during the course of the early stages of the interview, because you can still interview and effectively turn the job down, right? But of course, don't waste your time and other people's time.
Wow, yes. And should I say, is it safe to say, Ms.Gina, you can do what you call the researching via
the restalking?
Yes, the restalking. Yes. Safe to say that you're not really stalking, but you are just researching about your prospective client.
If it's publicly available online,
Yes.
and if you put it publicly available online, then it's information that's available to you to make your best judgment on.
Wow, thank you very much, Ms. Gina. Now for our next question, ay mula naman, who is it from? So we'll see. And there you go, Mommy Lorraine said, thank you so much, Miss Gina. Oh, we also have watching from CDO, Cagayan de Oro City, Ma'am Aaron Eugenio. Hello, hello. Okay, our next question is from Mommy I'll Grace. Is it possible to turn down tasks or projects that are out of your knowledge or skill?
That's another really good question. So it kind of depends. I wouldn't necessarily only turn down a project because some of my skills don't fit. So let's say, for example, you saw a job and it said general VA, right? And it listed down skills that you have, and they're asking for someone with the relevant amount of experience. Because remember, everybody has different levels of skills, right? It's not necessarily that just because I have a skill, I'm the most skilled at it or the least skilled at it. So you're matching your level of skill to the expectation of that client. So let's say I posted a job for a junior general VA. So my expectation should be that you would have the skills of a junior general VA. But what might happen is when you get into the interview, they might start telling you that they want you to build a website, for example, like a really complex website. Then I think it's important to try and ask the right questions, to that client, because it might be that someone told them that every general VA can build you a website, right? You know what it's like on the internet. There's so much rubbish out there, trash out there, right? So just ask the client, if they would be willing to, for example, for you to manage and help him outsource to a web developer or a web designer, and just guide him, because he or she may not know whether or not they should expect the general VA to do that. But I think if most of the skills are within your, and the project is within your area of knowledge, then you don't want to lose a potentially good project just because one or two of the things that they're asking for you can't do. And don't be ashamed to explain that, because even if a client comes to me and says, oh, I want you to do these 10 things, even with all my experience, there are things that I just simply cannot or will not do. And I would just confidently tell them that that's outside of the scope of my expertise, and that I can recommend some other way for him to get that done.
Wow, because it's so important. Like you've said a while ago, Ms.Gina, that you really have to set the expectations, and you need to be honest. If you can't do it, or you can, but in the end, you have to steer your goal that you can still help that client, but you have the specific skills that you're good at. So I think it's better talaga to sa ating mga momshies, we have to be honest. At the same time, if, for example, if you're not comfortable in doing that task, or you're not that knowledgeable enough, Ms.Gina, I have a question. What if, for example, do you trust your gut feel, for example? Like, I've done well with my interview like that, and I think I love this job, but after I've talked to my prospective client, I felt that I think this is not the job for me anymore. Should we also trust that gut feeling sometimes?
Yes, so important. I mean, I think actually that's a really good follow on from the earlier question, right? Because what I was also going to say about that is that when a client is trying to hire you for a job, you really want to try and understand their goals, their objectives, right? So going back to the question about, with what if I don't have the skill for that job? Try and really understand what's going on in that person's head and what they're trying to achieve in the end, because you don't want to just focus on tasks and projects, right? You really want to know, like, is this a long-term, good fit for me? And rather than just looking at if individual skills and tasks are a good fit, you want to see if it's a good match for you. Like so many things, right? Like did you feel comfortable with the person? Did you have a good rapport with them on the call? Did you feel that you were given an opportunity to ask questions? Was the person interested in hearing from you as well? Like if I interview someone, I don't want to just talk about me. I want to know, like, what is your aspiration? Like, what is important to you? What will help you? Like, why do you want this job, right? So I think all of those things, as well as the skills and experience, you need to explore together. And just remember that you are also making a decision to take a job. Don't ever make yourself feel that the client is holding the decision and you're just waiting for the client's decision. Throughout any process, you should always be considering, like, would this work for me? Is this a good fit for me? And yes, how do I feel about this? How did I feel comfortable more than anything, right? It's normal to feel a little bit nervous and awkward in any type of interview scenario or with a new person, right? Building a new relationship is a little bit awkward in the beginning, which is why I never want to date again. I'm so glad that I've been married for years now. But, I think definitely that gut feel, it's always right. But I just want to give a small caveat about that. Just a little warning about that. Sometimes, like, I like to overthink, right? So that's one of my challenges. But, right? Like, I do want to analyze. Like, if I'm feeling something, I don't want to make a snap judgment about that feeling. So I want to say, why am I feeling this? Is there a reason why I'm feeling this? Was it something that they said, or was it something that they did? Or so I try to give a little bit of logic to why did I feel that way. And sometimes I'll still give a chance if I really can't justify why did I feel that way, because as humans, we're very confused beings, right? We have memories and experiences, and even a smell can conjure up a memory, right? So maybe the person looked like someone that you you had a bad experience with in the past, and it might make you suddenly feel that you don't want to work with that person. So I do try to give a chance beyond that initial, instinct sometimes. But if they're unkind, run. You can never be wrong about that, right? Kindness is apparent.
Yes.
If someone is an unkind person, you know it. It's not going to be good.
Exactly, and I just love your message a while ago that you always have to work with kind clients. Like kindness should really prevail. You have to know your worth, your value. So if you think that person is treating you unkindly, you have to go away. You have to move on and don't your client. Okay, we have our next question from Mommy Rosario Hidalgo. Ms. Gina, what will be the best answer if your client would ask you during an interview about your past experiences? As an aspiring VA, I don't have any experience and I am a newbie, but they are looking for someone who has 1 to 2 or 6 years of experience. I have all the skills but lack experience. Wow.
Okay. I need to analyze this a little bit more. This is a really, really important question, and there are different ways of looking at this. Now, a lot of the time, I hear ladies saying, I'm an aspiring VA and I don't have any experience. But then when I ask them what did they do before, they've had experience, like a lot of experience, relevant experience. So my question to Ranajal, is it Ranajal? Is
yes.
When you say you don't have experience, do you mean that you're new as a VA? And if so, what did you do before? Is she able to answer the question? Because
not yet. Hopefully she'll be able to answer us right away. Yes.
That's so important, because I just cannot believe how many amazing, experienced, skilled women come to me and they'll say, I don't have any experience. That's their opening line. Instead of saying, I was a bank manager for 4 years, or I ran a department, or as part of a customer success team, or I've worked for, I've had a career of 16 years in customer service, spanning different types of jobs. They won't lead with that. They'll start with this lack of experience as a VA. And honestly, if your skills are transferable, I actually don't look for someone necessarily with VA experience when I hire. I just look at, because most things you can transition online. You just have to learn that online bit, right? Of course, some types of VA roles really would benefit from someone with experience as a VA. But there are lots and lots of online jobs that don't require specific online VA experience. So, always lead with your best strength. Don't lead with your weakness. And I think this is a Filipino thing, that humility, right? Be humble, but don't be too humble, because you have to sell yourself as well. This is very competitive. And so don't put your skills down. There you go. 10 years as a nurse. How could you possibly say to me you have no experience? I'm getting mad. When I read your message, I kind of assumed that you were a new graduate that just popped out of college and didn't have any work experience at all. So I guess, to answer your question very specifically, 2 things. If the person actually posted in their job that they're looking for a VA with, X amount of experience as a VA, you may not want to apply for those roles, because, to be honest, sometimes people really do need someone experienced, and it's just a waste of your time and their time. But a lot of people will not ask for a specific experience. So I think look for those roles where they haven't asked for specific virtual experience, virtual assistant experience, and then lead with your strengths, right? Look for something where you could really add value with those 10 amazing years, where you really built your life skills, your soft skills, so many skills that nurses have. So yeah, think about all of those skills that you could bring to a client. And can I just add to this topic, because I watched your video earlier and it reminded me, is a lot of foreign clients will really value experience in terms of age. So I know that some foreign clients will still discriminate if you're over a certain age in some industries. Unfortunately, that happens everywhere. But a lot of foreign clients will actually value someone who is more experienced and a little bit older, because they see that maturity as a real asset in the company. So if you're sort of over 35, even ladies who are over 30 sometimes say to me, I'm struggling to get a job because I'm getting older. And I say, how old are you? And they're like 30 or 28. Please don't think that your age should be an issue. And if it is an issue, then run away from that client.
Wow. And Ms.Gina will be having our last question for today. So it's from Mommy Leroy. Is it all right to ask if to the client if I can join marketing affiliates with them?
Oh, so for example, if the client has a product and you want to be an affiliate reselling their product, well, I guess it kind of depends on the role that you're working on with that client, because and sort of how they offered the role. So if they offered you a role where you're sort of your job is to promote and help them get more sales, then they may not want to hear from you initially that you're asking to earn on top of what you're already getting paid. But if you put a good proposal together, it's always in how you present it and how you communicate it, right? So if you said to your client, look, I'm already doing a lot, everything I can to promote your product. I think it's a great product, but I also have quite a big network of people that I think would benefit from this. And would you be open to some kind of commission or revenue or affiliate scheme if I was to work on this in my own time? So remember, if you're expecting to get additional pay for something that you're already paid for in your job, then you may want to suggest that you work on that to get that extra commission in your own time, right? Or maybe it's an expansion of your current role where your contract is changed to a sort of time-based plus revenue share or commission-based structure. But you may need to get to know your client a little bit before that, just to understand if that's something that they would find. They may think that they're already paying you for a job. So it really depends on the job description and everything else. But I think it's always good to explore other ways that you can grow a client's business, right? So if any of my team came to me and said, I have an idea of getting you more sales and I have a proposal for you, then I'd definitely be listening.
Yeah, it's not, how do I say this? There's no harm in trying. So maybe it really, as Miss Gina said a while ago, it depends on the proposal, on how you present it, right? Wow. And Miss Gina, before we end our webinar, it was truly very informative webinar for us. And we really look forward to the next set of our webinars in the next month, right? May we ask your final message, your final word, especially to those who are aspiring VAs or they have already working as VA but still a little bit struggling and how they improve their relationship with their clients. What would you like to say to them?
So I think, you really need to work on your confidence first, because you can have all the skills in the world and everything to offer. But if you don't believe in yourself and you're not comfortable sort of putting yourself out there, then you'll really struggle in a very competitive industry, and especially when you have to stretch your comfort zone. So, practice pushing yourself little by little. It doesn't happen overnight. You can build your confidence slowly, and also getting support from communities like FHMOMS, Connected Women, learn from others. But don't be afraid to just try, and always remember that you have something to offer and you're bringing value to the client. So I think the most important tip I can ever offer is never forget the value that you bring and that they need you as much as you need them. So don't put yourself down and speak with confidence, and just go for it.
Wow. And Ms. Gina, I know that we have another webinar with you on June 16th. Can you also invite our mommy viewers, those who are watching right now?
Yeah, so I talked a lot about time management. It's one of my other passions. And I the free download to the planner. So I would like to come and share with you some tips on how to use the planner to really maximize it. So you can go ahead and download it just in time for the mid-year sort of the half of the year, right? Because our motto is begin anywhere. You don't have to wait till January to start planning. Please don't do that. So I will come back and I will share some of my best tips on planning, time management, and how you can really go after those goals and dreams that you have.
So make sure to download Miss Gina's planner. We'll be posting it once again on the screen. The link on how to download it. Actually, we have already downloaded Miss Gina's free planner, and I hope you do, mga mommies. And that is free planner giveaway. You have to go to Miss Gina's website, www.ginaromero.com/planner. Miss Gina, thank you very much for your time, your knowledge, and your expertise. We've learned a lot today.
My pleasure.
Yes, we look forward. Oh, yes, we too. We love talking to you. We love hearing. Kanina, I've read a comment like, Miss Gina, I really love the way you speak. It's good to listen to. Parang it's a music to my ear. So wow, me too. It feels like I've learned a lot, and I really look forward to our next webinar with you, Miss Gina. Thank you very much.
I'm gonna go check out all your comments as well. Thank you so much for commenting. See you next time.
See you next time. Have a great day. Bye. See you next month. And there you go, mga momshies. I hope na kayo ay nakapag-download na rin ng planner ni Ms. Gina. We'll be flashing it on the screen. That is www.ginaromero.com/planner. Free download po yan. You have it ng hard copies or you want it ng... I think ako mas gusto ko talaga yung naka-print, yung naka-hard copy siya. And of course, before we read your takeaways for today, ang dami nating natutunan. We'll be having a very quick break. Mabilis lang po ito. And after that, we'll be reading some of your takeaways. So message na, comment na po ang inyong mga takeaways, mga momshies, and we will be right back.
Naghahanap ka ba ng course na topic focus at pwede mong aralin sa sarili mong oras? FHMOMS now offers short courses. For only 1,500 pesos per course, pwedeng-pwede mo nang aralin ng iyong course of choice at your own time, at your own pace. At sa loob ng 1 taon simula na mag-enroll ka, meron kang access sa course materials. Sigurado ring makakakuha ka ng Certificate of Completion upon your request. How to enroll to our short courses? First, choose from the following courses: Basic Project Management, Content Writing 101, Fundamentals of Podcasting, English Proficiency and ESL Online Teaching. You can check the outline of each course using these links. Settle your payment. You can pay through GCash, bank transfer, or any payment channel that has a transfer to bank feature. Click the link of the enrollment form of your chosen course and fill out the necessary details. And lastly, wait for 48 hours to receive your confirmation and course access. Thank you for always choosing FHMOMS. Enroll now!
And there you go, mga momshies. Patuloy pa rin po tayong nag-accept ng enrollees. Extended po ang ating mastery course enrollment. Until today na lang po ito, ha. So we only have few slots left. Kaya naman, sa mga momshies natin na gustong sumubok, of course, sa freelancing and you think that you want to increase your knowledge or gusto mo talagang bago ka mag-apply you wanted to increase kumbaga upscale pa or increase ng skills, I think this is the best way to do that. Enroll na po kayo sa ating mga mastery courses. And now we'll be reading our takeaways. So let's read some of your takeaways for today's webinar. Sabi po ni Ma'am Shane Belian, I've learned a lot. Thank you so much, Ms.Gina, for imparting your knowledge and tips on us. Aspiring VA, wow, this will be a great help for us to execute strategy and how to treat and understand our clients. Yeah, I agree with you, Mommy Shane. And good luck po sa inyo. We hope, let's claim na talagang makahanap ka na, makaland ka na nung perfect match na client para sa'yo. Next tayo. Mula kay Mommy Jenny Datuin, as an aspiring VA, I've learned that I really have to understand what I'm into for able to help them focus on track so they can have more time for effectiveness and productivity. I love it. Thank you very much, Mommy Jenny Datuin. Jenny Gamboa Datuin. Thank you po. Next po tayo. Kay Mommy Ronajel Rosario Hidalgo, thank you so much, Ms.Gina. I'll take note of that. I am so grateful for your advice. Yes. And we still have more. Wala kay Mommy Sherwin. I love your name, Sherwin. Kasi babaeng bida, kaya Sherwin. Joke lang. Sherwin Miles Alonzo, my takeaway is that kindness is always possible. Never settle for a client that is not treating you with kindness and respect. Another thing is to always clarify or confirm with client, never assume so to avoid mistakes. Also, last but not the least, Google is your best friend whenever you have a question in mind but are afraid to ask your client. Yes. And meron pa ba tayo? Do we have more? Okay, thank you very much sa mga momshies natin. Congratulations to you. Mommy Lorraine Filasol, Isle Grace, Ronajel Rosario Hidalgo, Leia Roy, Shane Belian, Jenny Gaboa Datuin, and Sherwin Miles Alonso. You have won Skill Success courses. So hintayin na lamang po ang announcement sa ating group kung paano po ito makiklaim. Sa akin, ang pinaka-takeaway ko for tonight, for today is yung every being deserves kindness. So run away if you think that you are treated unfairly, unkindly. Kasi parang ano lang yun, di ba? Parang love life lang yan eh. Kasi you really have to look for your perfect match. And if you think na kung nasa isang relasyon ka na ikaw ay dinidisrespect na, hindi ka na pinahalagahan, there's no time for you or no chance for you to stay there, to be in that relationship. Lalo na 'di ba yung mga mga FHTs natin who are in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. Yan. So, kung sa tingin nyo ay hindi na kayo nire-respeto, hindi kayo inaalagaan, it's time for you to move on. Just like yung sa clients din natin. If you think that you are treated unfairly, unkindly, kahit na sabihin na natin that they pay you well, I think the best thing to do is you still have to look for a client na rerespetuhin ka rin, aalagaan ka rin, at iti-treat ka rin na gaya ng partners. Hindi lang katulad na that's the employee-employer relationship. But they treat you as a partner. Kaya dahil dyan sa mga momshies natin at sa lahat ng ating mga viewers, maraming salamat po sa pagtutok sa atin today. Mamaya, we still have another webinar at 8 p.m. with Mommy Regine, that is e-commerce webinar sa mga momshies natin na confused pa rin kung ano yung kukuning mastery course. Ayan, we still have our webinars for today and also on 31, GVA naman, General Virtual Assistance, Intro to GVA with Mommy Christine. So mamaya at 8 p.m. again, 8 p.m. with Mommy Regine, e-commerce, Intro to e-commerce, and of course on the 31st meron pa rin tayo with Mommy Christine, GVA, Intro to GVA with Mommy Christine. And tomorrow meron din tayong webinar at 8 p.m. kasama naman natin si Mommy Princess, and i-on nyo na ang notifications niyo dahil on May 28 malalaman na natin kung sino ang mga nanalo sa Dear Mommy MK, and of course sa ating grand raffle draw kung nag-register kayo nanood kayo ng mga webinars natin in the past, nag-register kayo, congratulations. Meron na kayong mga entries sa ating grand raffle draw na mangyayari sa May 28. Maraming salamat po sa inyo mga momshies. Ako po ang inyong Mommy Ruf, ang raketarang host ng Marikina. Sa ngalan po ni Mommy MK, ingat po tayo and have a great night. Bye!
Tara na tumutok na sa FHMOMS Radio. Habang ika'y nagre-relax sa bahay mo.
FHMOMS Radio, changing lives, one mom at a time. Moving forward, giving back with FHMOMS Radio.
Tara na tumutok na sa FHMOMS Radio. Habang ika'y nagre-relax sa bahay mo. Marami kang matututunan dahil di lang basta chikahan. FHMOMS Radio, mga momshi ating to.
Tara na mga momshi, mami, nanay o mama, andito na ang FHMOMS makakasama. Ang online radio na magbibigay advice at mga kwento na siguradong mapapanay. Ito ay hindi lang basta mga chikahan, andito sila upang ikaw ay gabayan. Turuan ng mga tips sa paghahanap buhay at maging isa ka sa successful na nanay. O diba? Kaya saan ka pa? Basta ikaw ay momshi, dito bida ka. FHMOMS Radio number 1. Ito ang online radio ng sangkanan na yan. Di ka lang basta nanay, ikaw ay super nanay. Para sa pamilya ang lahat ay iaalay. Lahat ibibigay, lahat ay kayang gawin. Ang iyong pagiging nanay lalo pang palakasin.
FHMOMS Radio.
Tara na tumutok na sa FHMOMS Radio. Habang ika'y nagre-relax sa bahay mo. Marami kang matututunan dahil di lang basta chikahan. FHMOMS Radio, mga momshi ating to. Mga momshi, tara na, dito'y bidang-bida ka. Ipagmalaki natin na tayo'y magigiting nga ina. Mga mami, tara na, dito'y bidang-bida ka. Ipagmalaki natin na tayo'y magigiting nga ina.
FHMOMS Radio.
Tara na tumutok na sa FHMOMS Radio. Habang ika'y nagre-relax sa bahay mo. Marami kang matututunan dahil di lang basta chikahan. FHMOMS Radio, mga momshi ating to. Tara na tumutok na sa FHMOMS Radio. Habang ika'y nagre-relax sa bahay mo. Marami kang matututunan dahil di lang basta chikahan. FHMOMS Radio, mga momshi ating to.
Tambay na! Nagbabalik ang FHMOMS Radio.